Welcome to the End.
I'm Max.
And I'm Tina. And this is the mini-series where we talk about the good, the bad, and the Just Plain Wild TV finales. This week, we are talking about the Just Plain Wild It Had to Be You, the final episode of Drop Dead Diva.
Okay, this is a show I was vaguely acquainted with before this. I watched the first few episodes...
Because I made you.
Many, many years ago at this point. But we watched... I'm going to put this out there. I enjoyed them, so don't get me wrong. But I think an unnecessary number of episodes to prepare for this finale. But I enjoyed it. It's fun. It kind of made me think of... I know I've talked about the show more than I think anyone else on Earth has, but Ed.
Uh-huh.
The TV show about the bowling alley lawyer, because it's also a,
quirky lawyer show.
Well, yeah, it's a 40-minute dramedy, which it's a 40-minute lawyer-based dramedy, which is... It seems like it's a really specific subcategory, but there were a lot of shows like that. Ally McBeal, Boston Legal... A third example that I just didn't mention, because I already mentioned Ed.
You did already mention Ed.
And Drop Dead Diva is also in that category.
I think they were all chasing that sweet, sweet Ally McBeal ratings thing. The way that hangout shows became popular after Friends.
Yeah, and Friends just took everything from Living Single. I know they diverged after the first season, but oh my god... If you watch the first season of Living Single and then you watch the first season of Friends, you're like, how did no one sue?
Well, you can't copyright a concept, but it's still not cool. It's true.
You remember how in the first season, Friends had that thing where they focus on an object and everyone's talking around it, and then they drop it after the first season? It's because that's how every episode of Living Single ended. Why would you do that? Why would you take something that's so clearly, shot for shot from a different show? I'm sorry, they diverge pretty soon. After the first season.
I mean, I don't really feel like they do. I feel like Friends... I mean, it's generally accepted. I think that Friends owes a lot to Living Single. But... Friends is the one that was the breakthrough hit, and that is what people were chasing as far as trying to get the ratings. Yeah. I think when it came to, hour-long dramedies, everyone was chasing Ally McBeal.
Yeah. They had the dancing baby. They had Robert Downey Jr., depending on whether or not he was in or out of jail at the time.
Did they have Robert Downey Jr.? I didn't remember that.
Yeah, he was in the show. He was, her love interest. I am basing this entirely off of a Mad TV sketch I half remember, but I am pretty sure he was actually on the show. Okay. They had a unisex bathroom, and it was a really big fucking deal for some reason.
I remember that.
Yeah. Lucy Liu was in it, and she was a judge, but also a dominatrix.
It was a weird show.
I saw the previews. And then that girl from Heroes, she was Claire in Heroes, Hayden Panettiere. She was her egg baby in the last season because I guess they were desperate for ratings, and it's
Jane Krakowski was in Ally McBeal.
Not as her egg baby.
Honestly, just talking about Ally McBeal and kind of the weirdness that was Ally McBeal is making me realize that it's probably the most direct forerunner of this show, of Drop Dead Diva.
Although all of these shows had a quirk. Mm-hmm. Boston Legal took place in Boston, and it also had a do you remember the gimmick behind Boston Legal?
Well, Boston Legal was a spin-off of another show.
Yes.
But what were you going to say was the gimmick?
Okay, the gimmick was that the main lawyer, Denny Crane, William Shatner's character, was starting to get, I think it was Alzheimer's, but they might not have said specifically.
Oh, okay. I didn't really think of that as a gimmick, but okay, yeah, I see.
Yeah, and they bring in...
James Spader from the other show.
Yeah, to be
The Practice.
Yeah, The Practice, to cover for him. But they also form this, really deep connection, and,
Yeah, every episode ends with them sitting out on the balcony talking about the events of the week.
Yeah, while smoking cigars. And then they get married in the last season, because Sherlock did this, or not Sherlock, God, House did this too. That was just a thing with this sort of show where, you have your friend who you would bed were he a woman, and then you get gay married to him because it was the early 2000s. This was a really common plot for some reason. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I was just going to say that. All right, but this is Drop Dead Diva, which, like I said, I think the most obvious forerunner is Ally McBeal. I also feel like this show took a lot from Legally Blonde, in that it wants to be a show about a peppy, fashion-conscious woman who is also just a really intense legal mind. Although, unlike in Legally Blonde, where it was like, she's just smart, she can be both things at once. They literally had to put two people inside one head to justify it on this show. I also want to say that, well, you think you watched too many episodes to prep for this show. When you say that, you mean you watched 4 episodes, and I just want to say, I watched all 6 seasons to prep. But I didn't mind it. It was, this is gonna...
I enjoyed the episodes we watched. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't feel like I needed all of that going into the finale.
Well, we'll talk about that actually when we get to our segments.
Especially not the stupid fucking puppet subplot.
You did not need the puppet subplot. But we'll talk about that when we get to our segments.
You could have cut all of the blonde lady scenes and all of the episodes would have worked better.
Kim, her name is Kim.
Kim.
I actually think the third to last episode would have been a better finale, so we'll talk about it when we get to our segments.
I mean, she gets him off of death row, like, the episode after they introduce the conflict, and then they're just spinning their wheels for 2 episodes.
Well, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I remembered the finale of this show as being that episode. So the fact that it's not really threw me for a loop. So, I don't know, maybe this episode won't be as wacky as I wanted it to be.
They took 1 episode's worth of plot and spread it across 4 episodes by, like, doing the stupid, there was the puppet thing, and then there was, like, the gay kids who wanted to go to prom.
Okay, no, that was a different episode.
No.
No, that was an early episode.
Oh, that was an early episode. Okay, yeah.
The thing about the show is...
The Lady Gaga thing.
Yes.
Ugh.
The thing about the show is that it's a procedural, and so there's not a lot of ongoing plot, and the ongoing plot is what we're interested in here, but the ongoing plot that could have been 1 episode, they stretched out over 4, and then they filled it in with the cases of the week. But I feel like when you're getting up to a finale, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like
it did not.
You should end the show. You shouldn't have a case about Bigfoot in your final episode.
Oh my god. Oh my.
But I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. I do want to say that because this show is not streaming anywhere, we purchased the DVDs in order to do this episode. I bought the DVDs for the entire show, and I am not upset about that purchase. I will be rewatching these.
Unlike when you bought the DVDs for Designing Women.
The thing is that the first season of Designing Women is pretty weak, and I started off by buying the first season. I think the real question is, when we're done with this little mini-series, how much will I regret buying Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip?
Oh my god. Negative infinity, because I don't know if you know this, but it's the most brilliant show ever written.
That's what Aaron Sorkin keeps telling us.
It redefined comedy.
Oh my god.
For multiple generations.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. But first...
We didn't need to be renewed for a second season. We accomplished everything we wanted to accomplish in 1.
First, we're going to talk about Drop Dead Diva. I'm going to put a minute on the clock. You, who have seen 4 episodes in the last week, tell our listeners the plot of Drop Dead Diva, previously on Drop Dead Diva, and then I'll fill in all of the stuff that you skip over because you didn't watch all 6 seasons.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yes. A model dies, and her soul goes into the body of a fat woman who knows law, and now she knows law because her soul's in the fat woman's dead body. And she ends up with her boyfriend from, the before times, but then he gets shot, but then his soul goes into this criminal guy's body, and then she gets the criminal guy off because he didn't actually murder the lady he was accused of murdering, and now the two of them are together, and everyone thinks it's weird because no one knows about the whole body thing, except for her best friend who is pregnant with twins from their boss.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably fill some more stuff in while we're going over this, but just to, clarify everything here. So Deb is the model who dies in a car accident, and hits the return button from heaven to go into the body of Jane, the lawyer, and then ends up in this weird situation where she's working alongside Deb's boyfriend, Grayson. I'm sorry, the character's name is Grayson Kent.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry to disrail you while you're doing this, but that just reminds me of this Ada I read.
Okay.
Where this woman is really mad at her husband because she finds out 3 kids deep that he's been secretly naming their children after the Robins.
Amazing.
Because he lied about having a great aunt Stephanie who died when he found out their next kid was going to be a girl.
So his kids are like Stephanie, Jason, Richard.
Yeah, the first one's Richard and the second one's Jason, and then they were having a third kid, and the deal that they made was that he would get to name boys and she would get to name girls, so he tried to trick her into naming...
Honestly, I feel like that's awesome. Because it's not like their names are... It's not like naming your kid Khaleesi, right?
Yeah, like, maybe, nerds will recognize what's going on here, although honestly, I didn't at first because they had 2 kids and they were Rick and Jason, and I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't have clicked for me.
Yeah. Anyway, she works side by side with Deb's boyfriend,
Grayson,
who she feels like she can't reveal herself to, so she doesn't. And then eventually he finds out who she is. They start dating. He learns the whole story. Then he gets shot, and then he goes to heaven. And since he's heard her story, he hits the return button. And as you said, comes back in the body of a death row inmate who she has to get off.
Which seems like that would be the finale.
That should have been the final episode!
But it's not. She clears his name, and then there's 2 episodes left.
I feel like this episode's going to be short, because I don't have a lot to say about Bigfoot.
Oh my god. Okay, so the thing is, this really, really reminds me of Ed, again, a show that no one has ever heard of, but that
I don't think that's true. I totally remember Ed. I just literally never watched a single episode of it.
Well, yeah, but it's like King of Queens, where it was on for 10 seasons, but, like, do you know anyone who watched King of Queens?
Don't all our parents watch those shows? Isn't that what happens? Isn't that how they all stay on?
I'm just going to put this out there. Maybe in the past, definitely not King of Queens, but I don't think my folks watch any show that's not British and about murder.
Oh, I didn't mean our parents.
You mean parents in general?
Yeah, I meant like the platonic idea of parents.
Yeah. Even then, my parents were pretty discerning. We were a Frasier household, and for some reason a Jag household, but I think that's just because we watched a lot of Law & Order.
Okay, Jag is definitely a parent's show.
Yeah, but I mean, the reason we watched it was because it filled a gap in our schedule, and it was Law & Order-esque. It was what you would watch if there were no Law & Orders on.
Okay. Wait, when is that?
Well, it's now! They got rid of the Law & Orders, but yes, I know. There was a brief period where you wouldn't see Law & Order, although, God... I was going to say they should bring Law & Order back, but they didn't. It's not really good anymore. They should just play old Law & Orders again.
Well, that's because they brought back Law & Order and tried to make it like a serial, right? Instead of bringing it back as standalone episodes. That's what makes Law & Order so good, is that you can jump in at any moment. You can go to any hotel room in the country and turn on Law & Order, and you don't need any backstory to jump in.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things that threw me off SVU after a while, where I'm like, oh my god, why are people... This is the 4th kid Olivia's adopted. Like, stop trying to do this plot, Law & Order SVU. I'd say Owen, but I don't even know if that was the most recent one in the show. People just kept throwing babies at this woman until one stuck. Also, like, oh, Detective Stapler's getting divorced, and then he's not getting divorced because they're Catholic, and now he's in, like... his own show where he throws mobsters off the roof. It's like Law & Order anti-mobster division.
Yeah. It's actually Law & Order Organized Crime Division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Law & Order, I like it a lot. I'm aware it is very much propaganda. Like,
oh, yeah.
SVU's bread and butter was being like, hey, here's the most disgusting pervert on earth. Don't you really, really want to see Christopher Maloney crush them to death between his powerful thighs? Have you seen him do splits? He does them all the time. It's nuts.
All right, let's talk about Drop Dead Diva.
Okay.
All right, so this episode opens with Margaret Cho coming back. She's been she's a main character on the show. She's front credited. She plays Jane's assistant at the law firm, but she's been gone for several episodes. Yeah, so she's back for the finale, right?
Was Margaret Cho doing something, or was
she must have been?
I don't know. This seems like a show where a lot of people wanted out.
I do want to say, I actually really appreciate the way they wrote her character off. Mm-hmm. She was doing like some quirky thing where she was impersonating a lawyer to try to get another character out of paying his credit card bill, essentially.
Okay.
And watching it, you're like, that is super illegal what she's doing. Like, you know, when you're watching Grey's Anatomy and you're like, you can't just cut a guy's LVAD wire, you know?
Oh, clearly you can.
But you know what she can't do is impersonate a lawyer, because she actually ended up going to prison. And that's how they wrote her off the show. And I appreciate that they were like, hey, you know all this quirky shit we do all the time? Some of it's illegal and has consequences.
Like the TV show You, but fun.
Yes, the TV show You, which is like, hey, all this rom-com stuff is actually a creepy stalker.
It's a really good first season, and then it keeps going.
Yep. But she's back because she has to be back for the finale. And throughout the series, she's had a whole thing where she wanted to be a musical superstar. Just put that in your back pocket.
Yeah. So Grayson in his new body comes out, and he's like, well, okay, oh, I'm sorry. I feel like I need to set this up more, because we just kind of breezed over, you know, oh, here's Margaret Cho, Jane's old assistant, who's out of prison. And the first thing she says is, hey, Jane, I'm sorry your fiancé got shot and died, because that is the thing that just happened. This has to be in the back of your mind for this entire episode, is that to the whole world, Jane's fiancé got shot and died. She immediately started working on a case where she sprang this random death row inmate from death row, and then he moved into her apartment and they started having sex. Her fiancé has not been dead for 2 weeks. It has not been a month yet.
Okay.
Also, apparently you can get murder charges dismissed really quickly. Like, I mean, I know they found the actual murderer or whatever, but, like, it still feels like this process would have taken months.
I also want to establish, just for a little bit of background here, that when we're talking about Owen, her boss, who's dating her roommate Stacy, because he'll come up, you need to understand that at one point, he was engaged to Jane. He was going to marry Jane.
And then he would have got shot.
Listen, the reason he didn't marry Jane is because on their wedding day, literally seconds before she was going to walk down the aisle, he walked in on her kissing Grayson. Right? So... how
are any of these people still friends?
They just are, because they're all mature adults about it. But the point is, he loved this woman, and he does know that this woman loved him, but that her feelings for Grayson were so strong that it just took over everything. That's why they didn't get married.
Are her feelings for Grayson the Hulk?
What?
Because they just took over.
Well, but here's my point, though.
I mean, you're acting like... I mean, you're talking about it like this is something she had no control over. You have control over kissing your fiancé/boss's subordinate/your ex-boyfriend.
No. I'm not saying she didn't have any control. I'm trying to set the stage from Owen's point of view, is that Grayson is the love of her life that she was willing to blow up everything for. He was shot, and not 2 days later, she's having sex with an ex-felon. And I know that technically she got him off and proved that he was not guilty
of murder.
But, you know, the rest of the world is always going to doubt it. The rest of the world is always going to be like, is that true or was it a technicality?
Yeah.
So, from Owen's point, looking in on this, what the hell is Jane doing? That was the stage I was trying to set there.
So, yeah, Margaret Cho comes in and she's like, hey, so I'm sorry your fiancé got shot, but let's talk about me. Guess who's out of prison and just started singing professionally?
Yeah, then she sees this new guy that Jane is banging, and Jane's like, listen, I know that it's kind of weird that I'm having sex with this new guy and immediately, but please keep an open mind and understand that, you know, we really care about each other. And Margaret Cho's like, and she said, no, this is about me because I know him from high school and I hate him. And she slaps him and storms out. Honestly, that's a pretty huge coincidence, right?
Yeah, that is an insanely huge coincidence. Like, and also, clearly your boss and theoretically friend, clearly she's going through, her fiance died less than a month ago and this guy is already living with her and you're like, hey, I'm mad at him from something that happened in high school, so I'm going to slap him in the face and storm out. Oh, by the way, when Grayson got his new body and had to abandon his old identity, which he seems to take weirdly in stride, the new body was like...
I feel like the new body's pretty hot.
Well, yes, the new body is hot and he's also...
I mean, his old body was hot too.
But he's also, like, he was a megalothario with, like, a dick the size of your forearm. They went over the top of being like, look, Grayson has a sexy new body. It's okay. It's not weird that Grayson is riding this dude's corpse around. There's no weird consent thing when he has sex with his ex-girlfriend and...
Well, okay, the soul is gone. The body is... It's not a consent issue. The body is no longer... attached to the soul.
I would be mad if I died and I went to the after plane or whatever, and then I looked back and it turned out some other ghost hopped in my body and started porking people left, right, and center. I'd be mad about that.
I mean, funny you should say that because we do get an episode where Jane's spirit looks down and sees what's going on with her body, and she does get super pissed about it.
Yeah.
But then she just jumps into another body because she sees how Jane did it, so she does it too. And then she decides she likes that body and takes off.
Oh my, it's consent issues all the way down.
I don't know. I feel like once you've abandoned the body, it's not an issue anymore.
You're not willingly none of these people willingly abandon their bodies.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the person who entered it. It's not like they would be in their body but for the fact that, you know, Deb and Grayson entered the bodies.
I mean, I guess, but it's still uncomfortable. Don't have sex with other people's bodies.
Okay, wait. So, when Jane goes back to Earth in another body, she's just supposed to never have sex again?
I mean...
For the rest of her life?
No, but she should feel bad about it.
So she's just supposed to be Catholic for the rest of her life?
Also masturbating, you feel bad about that. It's not your body.
Well, I'm gonna say that that's not the case because God specifically comes down and says that's not the case.
My God.
Not God in person, but for the whole first season, and then, you know, they kind of lay off of it, but for the whole first season, Jane's got her guardian angel following her around saying, you're not Deb anymore, you're Jane now, you need to adjust to your new life and move forward as Jane and leave Deb behind. So, that's straight from God.
I really feel like they should make you get an entirely new identity, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Also, her original angel, who was played by Jonah.
From Superstore.
Or Ben Feldman, as he probably likes to be called, and not Jonah from Superstore. But that man wanted out of this series so bad he quit twice.
Yeah. But he came back for the finale. Except not really.
Not this part of the finale. He came back for 3 or 4 episodes before the finale.
He came back for the episode that should have been the finale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the one who, like, let Grayson go back to Earth in a new body.
Yeah.
And he's like, goodbye forever. The show is ending now. Please lose my number.
Yeah, he's like, okay, this is for real. The last time we're gonna let a human get away with this. Even though we said it wasn't possible, and then Jane did it, or Deb did it, and then Jane did it, and now we're letting Grayson do it. But for real, this is the last time. But since you mentioned sex in the body, I mean, they do talk about what sex in different bodies feels like. Like, when Deb in Jane's body is going to have sex with Grayson for the first time, she's concerned about what it's going to be like because, you know, Deb Grayson's sex was good. Is Jane Grayson's sex going to be good too, right? And
it wasn't, and they broke up.
No,
I'm kidding. They had to get together so he could get shot.
Yeah, but she does tell her best friend Stacy once they start having sex that Jane Ian's sex is even better than Deb Grayson's sex was. So apparently his new body is way better at sex than his old body was. Muscle memory. It's called muscle memory.
It's like the ship of Theseus of sex.
Yes, that's what happens at the end. I don't want to jump ahead here, but yes, that's exactly what's happening. All right, but what's actually happening is back at the office, Owen is talking to Paul, who is Jane's guardian angel, although nobody knows that except for Jane.
Yeah, they keep switching guardian angels on Jane. I hate this guy. I mean, he's not terrible or anything, but I'm sorry. You make a character a himbo. You make him like a himbo, and he's so boring and unlikable. How do you fuck that up? You have a big, dumb, nice guy who's shirtless a lot. It's not rocket science.
But he's also just super boring, I think is the problem.
I guess, but like, do himbos need to be interesting? He just needs to
Clearly they do, because this guy's not doing it for me. But Owen is coming to talk to Paul, because in the last episode...
Also, prepare for him being a guardian angel to not matter at all.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't think we're even going to talk about him again after this scene.
I've watched, I think, 8 episodes of this show now, and the guardian angels barely talk to Jane. They always have their own separate subplots. They do not give a shit what happens to this lady.
Okay, listen, the second guardian angel, the one who was before Paul and after Jonah, now I'm calling him Jonah, he was the only one who was effective. And that's why they couldn't keep him around. And he was the only one who was, like, concerned with, like, helping Jane. Or, I don't know if helping is the right word, but, like, helping her move on. At the moment when Owen was going to propose to Jane, Grayson realized that he had feelings for Jane, who at the time he did not know was actually dead, but he realized that he had feelings for Jane. So he was going to go tell her, but Owen was also about to propose. And her guardian angel, like, blocked him at the door, like, body blocked him from going into the bar until Owen had a chance to propose, and Jane said yes. Like, that guardian angel did stuff, and that's why they couldn't keep him around. Paul does literally nothing. Anyway, last episode, Owen confronted Jane and was like, I'm really concerned with the fact that you're banging the guy that you caught off of death row hours after your fiance was shot.
And she's like, fuck you, Owen. I quit. I'm going to start my own law firm where I just lie around my house and have sex with this guy all the time, who's definitely not Grayson in a hot new body.
That is literally what happens, but yeah.
She is so unprofessional.
Well, that's kind of a running thing in the show.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the fact that she didn't go to law school and she didn't work hard to become a lawyer. So she's got less on the line, you know?
Yeah.
So Owen tells Paul, hey, if anyone calls for Jane, send them to me because she doesn't work here anymore. 2 people show up and they look for Jane and he immediately sends them to where she is because...
Yeah, it's the incest twins.
Yeah, it's a couple who might be brother and sister, might be married, it's unclear.
Yeah. To each other.
In another plot that we probably won't talk about at all, other than right now to establish it, a guy who was a temp worker at the agency also comes back for the finale, which is kind of weird. But he comes back and he tells Kim, one of the other lawyers of the firm, that
she's the mean blonde lady who gets saddled with the ridiculous subplots because it's funny because she's so serious. Yeah.
Anyway, he got fired from his temp job because he wouldn't stop talking about Bigfoot.
Okay, we had a really, 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 really long conversation about this.
Yeah.
Because I think they were entirely within their rights to fire him.
And I disagree.
Because they didn't fire him because he was being really, 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 really annoying about Bigfoot. They fired him because he was being really, 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 really annoying. The clause they cite for firing him is one about being professional in the workplace, which he was not being. And then they make it into a whole trial about whether or not Bigfoot exists. That's not the point. He could have been being really annoying about anything.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with you about the trial, because yes, it is bad. But I will say that in all of the professional workplaces where I have been, people talk to an annoying extent about their special interests all the time. You can't just fire people because their special interest happens to be Bigfoot.
They didn't. They fired him because he was annoying.
I work with a lot of annoyed people. If you're telling me that it's well, not anymore, my job is great now. But if you're telling me that it is unprofessional to be annoying, then I don't feel like you've worked in an office ever. Like, I know that's not true.
Well, I've never worked at an office at an at-will firing state.
He's not at will, he has a contract.
But he violated the terms of the contract.
The vague professionalism term.
Yeah. I feel like that's enough to fire him. Like, the other people aren't being fired because they're not annoying enough people at the office by talking about Bigfoot.
Listen, if you're telling me that somebody in an office in LA talking about Bigfoot is the most annoying thing happening in that office, I sincerely doubt it. Especially because... Yeah, no, I sincerely doubt it.
I'm not saying there weren't more annoying people. I'm saying he annoyed the wrong people, and they were the people who had the power to fire him.
Well, okay.
I'm sure if the woman who, like, won't shut up about the medium, I'm sure if she pissed off the right people, they would use that part of her contract to fire her.
He's not coming in and trying to sell, like, Herbalife, like I'm sure lots of other people are. Oh my god, he's not coming in and doing a thing where he cuts like a tiny sliver of a donut out because he's like, oh, I'm gonna be bad. Just take the fucking donut, Deborah! Oh my god! Do you think anyone wants to come and eat your leftovers of like tiny little slices of donuts that you left behind?
Is that where those were? I used to see that sometimes.
Yeah!
I'd bring donuts into work sometimes because I don't know if you've ever done it, but you should totally do it if you work in an office. People go nuts. It's so cool. I spent like $15 and the entire office shut down for like an hour.
Okay, but listen, if you want to cut 2 donuts in half, right? Like you want chocolate and you want powdered, so you cut them in half and you take half of the powdered and half of the chocolate. Mm-hmm. Like, okay. But that's the limit. That's the absolute limit. When you start like quartering them or like cutting them into eighths, no, just stop it. Stop it.
I'd only eat whole donuts. I wouldn't trust, you know.
I would also only take a whole donut, but I'm going to give some grace to people who want to cut like one in half. In half is the most I will allow.
God, my boss used to bring in this like awful Costco sheet cake for events. And I'd always eat some, even though it was super gross, just because that's, like, the rule of cake at the office.
I worked at this office where everybody was obsessed with this one bakery. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't even, you couldn't even say, like, oh, it's cheap Costco stuff. Because it was, like, legitimately, quote-unquote, like, nice pastries. But I hated them so much. I'm like, why is everybody so obsessed with this stupid bundt cake bakery? It's like they have these mini bundt cakes.
Oh god, bundt cakes.
They were so gross and dry. I don't know why everyone was so freaking obsessed with them.
Okay, that was a thing, right? Because I remember bundt cakes being like de rigueur at some point.
Well, I mean, we live in the same town. Your people might have just been getting them from the same bakery mine were.
Oh no, I meant like way back when I lived in Connecticut way back. I remember there was a bundt cake boom briefly.
Oh, maybe.
Also, people trying to... Biscottis aren't desserts. It's weird when you're like, oh, I made biscotti. Do you want some? No. No one has ever wanted biscotti. Don't inflict biscotti on people.
Can you see all these annoying things we're talking about? These are all more annoying than talking about Bigfoot.
We're going to skip over this entire subplot. It's basically this blonde lady thinks that she's too good for this guy because he's a personal assistant who's really into Bigfoot. But then she realizes that this is the last episode of the show, so she might as well just shut up and end up with somebody already.
Yep, time to pair the spares.
Honestly, her stuff really reminds me of Ed because they always had like the goofy plot of the week where, I'm a postman and I'm getting sued because I bit someone's dog. Wah wah.
Yep.
Also, I'm not a lawyer, as you may know, or not, but no, I'm not a lawyer. Mm-hmm. I've watched a lot of Law & Order, though, and the Law in Ed is so bad. I know that you said that one of the things about Drop Dead Diva is that it was clearly written by people who know law stuff, because it's weird, but it's like stuff you study as case law or whatever.
Yeah, it's like all of the outlandish hypotheticals that you would come up with to test the limits of the law when you're in law school are the cases.
But in ed, the law was so poorly written. It's just everyone says whatever they want to all the time. And, like, you can just call witnesses and introduce evidence all willy-nilly. Like, it just works so that they can, like, make jokes and then have a kind of sentimental conclusion at the end of the trial.
Yeah, I mean, they do a little bit of that. I mean, you know, a little dramatic license. You know. At some point, it's going to be boring to actually go through the procedure. So I give them a little bit of leeway. But the legal reasoning is all kind of exactly the kind of law school hypotheticals you would see. And at one point early on, the partner at the firm that we know, Jay Parker, he actually says that, like, he built his firm seeking out cases like that so that they're known as the firm that does those weird boundary testing cases to kind of explain away why every single case they have is worthy of an A, B, or C story. That is the thing that I think is interesting about Drop Dead Diva. First, that the law is not annoyingly bad like apparently it was in Ed. Also, the weirdly high level of guest stars. Like, the Simpsons golden age level of guest stars they had on this show.
Yeah.
Like...
We watched the gay episode, and Wanda Sykes was in it, Clay Aiken was in it, Lance Bass was in it.
Yeah. Kim Kardashian has a little run on it.
God. You might know her from that one season of American Horror Story.
I know who Kim Kardashian is.
Or from other stuff, I guess.
She's famous for being famous. Everybody knows that. Paula Abdul is on it as herself.
Oof.
In several episodes.
American Idol did so much for her. I remember watching
Well, so that's actually this is post-American, or this is happening simultaneously with American Idol, and that's kind of the joke. She appears in Jane's dream sequences. Jane also has a lot of dream sequences to process stuff, and...
Cough, cough, Providence. Sorry, Providence did that too.
I don't know what Providence is.
Oh, it's this show about this, like, doctor who lives in Providence in Rhode Island.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, she runs a small medical practice with her dad, and it's very, you know, her sister got teen pregnant, and her brother, like, used to be in trouble, but now he's not anymore, and it's like a family drama, but very sentimental thing. I watched so much of it in high school, and I don't know why. That Greek lady is in it, Mila Kakas something. You've seen her and stuff. She's the Greek lady in a lot of stuff.
Okay. Well, because Paula Abdul is a judge on American Idol, she shows up as a judge in Jane's dream sequences when she's processing stuff.
Yeah.
Barbara Corcoran shows up as herself, not in a dream sequence.
Wow.
And Tim Gunn also shows up as himself in a dream sequence.
He did a lot of that. He was also in a, I think it was an ABC family movie, but it might have been a Disney movie, which has a really similar premise to Drop Dead Diva. It's about this, like, prom queen who is, like, or wannabe prom queen who is really shitty, and she dies, and she's about to go to hell, but Tim Gunn is her guardian angel, and he's like, I'm going to give you another chance, you're going to go back on Earth, and you need to make the least popular girl in high school popular, or you're going straight to hell.
Okay, that's really interesting.
And you'll never guess, but the unpopular girl that she has to make popular, she's a brunette who wears her hair in a ponytail, and she's got glasses.
She's got paint on her jeans.
She's got paint on her overalls.
Oh my god.
Not another teen movie, except for the few parts of it that are really, really bad. It's a really good movie.
Alright, I just opened the Wikipedia page so I can, like, scroll down and read you some of the people who guest starred on this show.
Okay.
I mentioned Paula Abdul, and you already mentioned Clay Aiken. And Lance Bass. Also Delta
and
Burke.
Wanda Sykes. Oh, yeah. Who's not gay, but is beloved by the gays.
Vivica A. Fox.
God, she was everywhere for a while. She was in the Tremors TV show.
Kathy Griffith. Ricky Lake.
There's a lot of people you get to be on later, Will and Grace.
Liza Minnelli. Kelly Osbourne.
Yeah.
Leanne Rimes. Sybil Shepherd.
She's still alive. I feel like I haven't heard her name in forever.
I'm pretty sure she is. and Wendy Williams.
Oof.
But, like, you can kind of see exactly what, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm aware very, very exactly what stadium they're batting in.
Sure, there you go.
To horribly mangle a sports metaphor. It's for you straight guys in the audience. Sports!
That's for you straight guy in the audience.
Yeah, I guess I should probably know our demographics.
All right, back to the show. Jane is working out of her home now, trying to get her new practice started, and she's talking to the couple that Paul sent her way. They're a pro bono couple, and I'm like, that's not... You're not going to start a practice that way, Jane, but okay, whatever.
You're also not going to start a practice with your boy toy lounging all over the place in his, like, gray t-shirt and sweats.
She says he's her paralegal. It's like you said, it's a law firm where she just lays around and gets to fuck Ian.
Yeah, like, she's talking to this couple, and he bursts out of the bedroom, he's like, hey, babe, what's going on? Can I write some stuff down?
Hope y'all weren't worried about confidentiality. No, just kidding. He's our paralegal. It's fine.
Okay, so is Grayson going to have to be, like, reconfirmed in this new body as a paralegal? I know he was an actual lawyer, but, like...
No, you don't. No, there are paralegal certifications, but you don't actually need anything. You don't actually need any kind of license to be a paralegal.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So, this couple works for a Greenpeace type organization, and they're in trouble because they attacked a Japanese whaling ship.
Yeah, this episode is weirdly... I mean, I know whaling is something that happens in Japan, but this episode feels a little...
I feel like this was topical at the time. I feel like this was right after that documentary came out.
Whale Wars? Or was that a TV show about this sort of thing?
I think that was a TV show. I've never heard of Whale Wars.
There's a lot of bits where Jane's like, we can't trust the Japanese. They'll never send blonde white lady back once they have their hands on her. It's like, it's a country, Jane. I'm sure they would send her back once you had evidence that she didn't actually blow up the whaling ship or whatever.
But she did. That's the problem.
That
She did actually do the thing that they're accusing her of.
Yeah, but, like, I'm sure that Japan would give America back this lady.
The Cove was the movie I was thinking of.
Ah.
And it did. It came out in 2009, so right around this time.
Wow, the show came out way later than I thought it did. I thought this was like an early 2000s thing, not a late 2000s thing. So, Jane's best friend / her boss's fiance is very pregnant. She's pregnant with twins. She's the best character on the show.
Stacy? Yeah, Stacy's pretty great. And she has a nice, like, growth arc, because she starts out kind of a vapid model, and then is figuring out what to do with her life without the benefit of getting a new body with a bunch of legal knowledge.
Yeah.
And, yeah, she decided she wanted to have kids, and so she asked Jane's ex-fiancé if he would donate his sperm, and he said yes. And then, as happens in TV shows, once she was pregnant with his children, he fell in love with her, and now they're going to get married. But she's worried because her best friend and her fiancé are not talking because of the whole...
Also, Stacy knows about the whole... Stacy, we skipped over the very inaccurate opening of this show. For some reason, the intro to the show lies about what the premise is every episode.
It does lie!
But it lets us know that Stacy is aware that Jane is actually Deb in a new body.
Yes, so the intro says that there was a mix-up, and Deb got sent back to Earth in the body of Jane. There wasn't a mix-up! Girl hijacked the return button! But yes.
Why do they even have that button?
They have the button because angels are allowed to send people back under certain circumstances if God signs off on it.
Well, I mean...
Not anymore, they're not.
Ben Feldman was... also, it is just a regular return button, Ben Feldman.
Why do we even have that lever?
So, Stacy is aware that Jane is Deb and that Grayson is now Ian. So she knows what the situation is, but to her fiancé, Jane's boss, / ex-fiancé.
/ Jane's ex-fiancé.
But to him, his friend?
Yeah, they're friends.
Who stole his ex-fiancée?
Oh, he and Grayson were friends, yeah.
Yeah, his friend got shot. I mean, we talked about this a lot. This is why this is on the what the F thing is. It's just, Stacy knows what the situation is, and she's trying to convince her husband that it's not a clear cry for help.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, this is really weird. Someone should do something about it.
We talked about how we're not going to talk about the Bigfoot plot, but we didn't talk about how we are not going to talk about the plot with Margaret Cho, because Jane is desperately calling her, trying to find out what Ian did in high school that pissed her off, because, they don't have any biographical memory of the bodies they're in, so Grayson doesn't know what Ian did, and Jane wants to make sure it's not something terrible, but this is literally going to be a nothing of a plot.
Yeah. Like, again, not to harp on a point, but Jane's fiancé just died, and Margaret Cho is like, whatever, your new boyfriend who you hooked up with suspiciously soon after your fiancé was shot, like, he was not supportive enough of me in high school when we were in a band together. This situation's about me now.
Oh, yeah, let's just spoiler it now. When she was on Star Search, he was supposed to be her accompaniment, but he got drunk and fucked up. That's what happened. But then he's like, that was a decade ago. And she's like, okay, I forgive you. And that's it. That's all we get of that plot.
To be fair to her, making stuff about you is kind of every character's go-to move in this show.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Jane has a single conversation that she doesn't steer around to being about herself.
Well, okay, perfect example. She gets a phone call that Owen wants to talk to her, and she's like, I bet he wants to apologize for telling me not to screw the death row inmate that I just got off. And when she shows...
yeah.
And when she shows up, he's like, yeah, I'm representing the whaling vessel that your people attacked, so I thought we should have a settlement meeting and talk about it. And she's like, no, I thought we were going to talk about my thing.
I don't particularly care for Jane/Deb. She's very smug. And not in a fun way. Like Regina in Once Upon a Time, she's fun smug.
I feel like she's fun smug in earlier seasons. As the season wraps up, she starts being
Phoebe Halliwell.
Yeah, but for most of the show, she's fun smug.
I mean, I liked her bit with the, as you can see by the car I drive, I'm a very good lawyer.
Yeah.
That was fun, even though she was making the gay kids thing about her not being able to date Grayson or something.
Everything is about her. It's true.
I am the center of the universe. I'm the moon.
Well, I mean, it's hard to not make everything about you when every case comes back thematically to what you're dealing with that week.
True. It's like whenever Buffy goes to class in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Exactly.
The lesson's always directly related to whatever's going to happen to her that week. She should just stop going to class.
There you go. Well, then she would have no warning about what was going to happen.
Point.
Yeah.
You ever wonder about the people who are just in these courtrooms? Do you think they're waiting for the next thing?
Yes, I do.
Because there's like no way these random people are showing up to watch this case about whale wars.
Sometimes like first year sometimes law students will do that. Go just randomly sit in court.
But I mean, real courts have to be way emptier than courts on TV.
Yes. Yes.
It feels weird, right? Wouldn't you think courts would be, because then you wouldn't have to hire extras, but...
I mean, I think you're right, though, that they're waiting for other cases. I mean, the majority of times that I've been in a courtroom, it was for, like, a large docket. So, like, I was with somebody who was being arraigned on, like, either a landlord-tenant case or, like, a minor... shoplifting case or something like that, and everybody who was going to be arraigned was there in the room. Like, the docket the docket was 20 cases that were all going to be called, so that's who was sitting in the room. But that's not the case here, so yeah. I never really thought to question it, but man, there's a lot of people in that courtroom.
So Jane is mad at Owen, the boss. Owen for taking the side of the Japanese against the sea defenders.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm a law firm. People hire me to represent them in court. And she's like, I thought you had a code. I thought you had principles. And he's like, yeah, my principles are that everyone deserves a legal defense. Come on.
Okay. You're making it way more reasonable than it is. Because she's like, I feel like I don't even know you. And he's like, what do you mean you feel like you don't know me? Why are you having sex with this guy?
Speaking of, Grayson in Ian's body comes up and he's decided to wear a tan suit with a blue checkered shirt because I guess his new body's insane.
It's what paralegals wear.
It is such a bizarre outfit. He looks so unprofessional. It is the most unprofessional you can look in a suit.
Well, I think it's supposed to show that he's not, put together. He doesn't have a lawyer wardrobe. Even though, he possibly could, right? I feel like he would fit in Grayson's suits. Although that would raise even more eyebrows, right?
Well, she already gave Grayson's old class ring to him.
Oh, that's so much weirder, right?
Yeah.
You and I were talking about this when it happened. You were like, who has class rings? And I was like, I still have my class ring. But you know what I wouldn't do? Wear a random class ring for a school I didn't go to.
Yeah. Especially if it's the school your new girlfriend's dead fiancé went to. Because it was his ring that she got from his mom and then gave to you.
Anyway, Ian/Grayson goes to...
By the way, Grayson does not seem to care about his mom at all. He's like, how did she seem like she was doing? And Jane's like, well under the circumstances. And he's like, oh, you mean the circumstances of her thinking that her son is dead? Does Deb ever deal with the fact that her parents think that she's dead?
Oh, yeah, there's actually a lot of really emotional episodes where she deals with that.
Well, Grayson doesn't give a shit. Grayson's like, whatever, new body. Only 4 episodes left. Don't think about it too hard.
Oh, so, yeah, he goes to wait in the car, and Owen's like, Jane, I feel like you're having a breakdown, and I would really like you to come back to the firm and go on leave and deal with whatever this is. I am your friend, and I love you. Please get your shit together.
And she's like, I can't believe you're judging me. I'm making really good decisions right now, Owen. Don't make me leave you again, like I left you at the altar that one time.
He's like, what would Grayson say if he could see you now?
And then she starts laughing. What the hell?
Well, because Grayson is seeing her right now.
Yeah, she winks at Ian, which, I would be like, wait, did Jane and Ian pay for that guy to shoot Grayson? That's what I would be thinking if I was Owen.
I mean, I would definitely think there was some weird shenanigans going on. I wouldn't really understand exactly what they were. But I would definitely think there was something weird going on.
I know you know that your boyfriend's not dead, but
So Margaret Cho and Jane meet up, and I know I said we were going to skip over it, but I just have to clarify that when they meet up, Jane is immediately I know you think it's weird that I'm sleeping with this guy who is an ex-felon immediately after Grayson was killed, and Margaret Cho's like, oh no, get your jollies wherever you can, girl, I'm fine with that, but this guy screwed me over in high school.
And if you ask me any more questions about it, I'm gonna leave. What a weird little scene. Was the episode 3 minutes short or something?
I think they needed to figure out a way to stretch Margaret Cho's stuff across the whole episode. And her plot is so nothing that they had to make it weird. Than the rest of the show.
So Stacy is setting up the arrangement. Well, she has all of the table...
The seating chart.
Yeah, she has the seating chart out.
For her wedding.
And she's like, and obviously you're going to be at the number 1 seat because you're my number 1 friend, Jane Deb. And...
Okay, well, no, this is weird, right? Because she is Stacy's maid of honor, right? So she's going to be at the head table, but her date would also normally be sitting at the head table. But now instead of being Grayson, her date is going to be Ian.
Yeah, and she's like, Deb / Jane, is like, I guess I'm just not going to come to your wedding since I'm going to have to bring Ian, and then Owen's going to be mad. You don't have to bring Ian. You could leave Ian at home. Like, they don't know he's Grayson. I mean, Stacy does, but like, he could miss this one event. Be there for your best friend. It always seems like she's really shitty to Stacy, honestly. In the few episodes of this I've seen, she seems like she's a really shitty friend to Stacy.
Yeah, she really is. Yeah. And originally you could be like, well, she is shitty to Stacy, but she's going through a lot, but there's 60s of this show. She should be done going through things.
Yes. Okay, so Jane's doing this like clever thing where she's like, hey, the blonde lady wasn't technically employed by the Sea Defenders, so you have to sue her separately.
Okay, so the thing that she's doing is actually a legal thing. So she is bringing in, essentially what she does is she brings in the woman who was driving the Greenpeace boat as a defendant individually, not just as a defendant of the Sea Defenders is the fake Greenpeace organization. Uh-huh. And the point is that if there's a large monetary verdict against the Sea Defenders, then they'll go out of business. They'll be bankrupt. But this woman is judgment proof, which is the actual term we use for somebody who has no money. So it doesn't matter how big a judgment you get against them, they are judgment proof. So basically what Jane does is she gets her added as a defendant, and then she shows that she was acting outside of the bounds of her employment, so she gets Sea Defenders dismissed, so now the judgment is solely against this woman, and she's judgment proof, so the Sea Defenders are saved. That's basically the legal maneuver that happens. And everybody is very excited about the success of this maneuver, and honestly, this happens a few times in this show where supposedly Deb has gotten all of Jane's brilliant legal knowledge, but she doesn't think about things like she just got her client to admit to a criminal act and now she's gonna be arrested? Like...
Yeah, I mean, I guess Jane didn't have much in the way of common sense either.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, that's what happens. They're all celebrating the victory of not losing all of the organization's money, and then the police come and arrest the woman individually because she committed a crime. She legitimately committed a crime.
So Stacy is throwing a fake cocktail party under the advisement of Angel Doug or whatever. Paul. Because, like...
she's trying to get Owen and Jane in a room together, get them both drunk, and then have them kiss and make up. But not kiss too much because they did used to date.
God. So... Paul is at their apartment because...
he lives there.
I'm sorry, I meant Owen.
Oh, okay.
Wait a sec. Keep this in because I want to talk about... no one thinks it's weird that Jane's assistant... What is...
he's an unpaid intern.
Which
doesn't really work because you can't be an intern if you're not, like, interning for a college class. And as far as we know, he's not working... anyway, it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Okay, so the Angel guy is just living in their apartment, and no one thinks that's weird at all that their assistant is living with them?
No, he didn't have anywhere to go.
Okay. So...
LA's really expensive.
So, I mean, I would be suspicious of Jane. I'd be like, okay, this is clearly some weird, like, power play thing that she's doing where she's definitely doing weird sex stuff to that intern. Is what my thought process would be if, you know, hey, one of the partners at our firm is making one of the interns live with her.
It actually is, now that you mention it, really inappropriate with her being a partner in the firm for him to be living there. Oh, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Owen clearly doesn't care because he's there for the cocktail party, but then Jane shows up and he's like, Jane, what are you doing at your apartment?
Listen, I know I said a lot of the legal reasoning was accurate, but also... on this show, they fuck their clients all the time, which you absolutely are not allowed to do.
It's like the number 2 rule of being a lawyer.
Yeah, the number one is don't steal their money. Like, that's how high a rule it is. Anyway, whatever.
It's almost as important as money.
Exactly! I know you're joking, but yes, exactly. But you're right. Owen didn't assume that Jane would be at her own apartment.
So, Deb is mad at Owen because she's like, I can't believe you sicked the Japanese on my client. How dare you?
And he's like, you admitted to a crime in open court.
I didn't sick squat on anyone.
What did you think was going to happen?
What happens when you admit to crimes in open court? And she's like, I'm mad at you, Owen. This is definitely your fault, not mine. So Jane goes off on this whole thing where she's like,
you are right that, yeah, she's trying to stop her from being extradited to Japan because she won't get a fair trial in Japan. But you're right. Like, that is really xenophobic, isn't it? Like, why?
She says the Japanese demand their pound of flesh. She won't get a fair trial. They'll never let her go. And it's like, dude, Japan's like a country of people, Jane. They're not orcs. Like, it's really weird and gross how she talks about.
I also feel like it's weirdly ironic for Jane to talk about, because she uses the phrase a pound of flesh, like considering the context of,
yeah, the whole,
of Merchant of Venice, which is what that's from. It's like, that phrase already has weirdly
xenophobic, at least, connotations.
Yeah. Like, do you have no self-reflection about this, Jane?
She's like, objection, Your Honor, Japan exists and that's bad. And he's like, no, that's...
Like, when people commit crimes internationally, sometimes they get extradited, Jane.
To the country that they committed the crimes against.
They're not like, your client isn't super special just because, like, she's your client.
I mean, the opposing counsel is like, yeah, a bunch of Japanese guys got injured when they attacked the boat to stop them from whaling. And Jane's like, objection, Japan sucks. Like, that's not an objection, Jane. I mean, it is, but it's not...
Well, her objections fail, and this woman is literally dragged away.
Kicking and screaming, no, not Japan. What is the show's problem?
I know. There's another episode about an arranged marriage that actually feels way more racist that I'm glad we're not talking about, even though I did just bring it up right now. Yeah.
The past was a nightmare. Also the present.
Yeah, and the past, by the way, 2009, and not far enough in the past! Oh, but anyway, since Jane is the lawyer and not actually the person who's gonna be dragged to Japan, she gets to go home and reminisce with Ian about all of the good times that Deb and Grayson had. Like, she's literally looking at a photograph of Deb and Grayson, two people who, as you mentioned, Ship of Theseus style, are both in different bodies, and she's like...
Why didn't you say anything to have in your house? To have a picture of your dead fiancé and his dead girlfriend?
I didn't even think about that!
That's an insane thing to own.
Oh my god! People are gonna come in for the rest of their lives and be like, who are these two people? And she's gonna be like, well, he used to be my fiance, but he was shot, and that was his girlfriend before I met him, but she died in a car accident.
They have that picture hanging on their wall.
It's like in a really prominent place. I mean, I thought it was weird that it was there to begin with. I didn't even think about, like, 10 years down the road when visitors to their house are like, what is this? Huh. I was just thinking how weird it is that she's reminiscing about, like, going ice skating together, a thing that neither of these bodies have done. I mean, I'm sure they've ice skated, but you like, she's reminiscing about a thing that is a very body thing.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, remember that interesting conversation we had? It's like, hey, remember that thing our bodies did? Our bodies that we don't have anymore?
Like, I get that it would just detract from the fun tone the show's going for, but really, like, this would be a complete ideological nightmare.
Yes.
Like, they're all like, haha, you died, now you're in a new body, and not like, oh my god, who am I now? Because I can play piano now. the dead guy could play piano. I didn't know how to play piano, but now I can play piano, and that's like gonna be my new thing.
That was actually, I think, the point, I realize now, of the whole subplot with Margaret's show, was just for him to learn that he can play piano, because he was supposed to be her accompanist in high school.
Yeah, again, you don't have any memories of your past life, but you have their skills.
Yeah. Yeah, you have no biographical memory, but you have all of the knowledge and skills. Yeah, exactly.
Again, I know Grayson didn't actually murder, or Ian's body didn't actually murder the woman he was, or woman?
No, it was a man.
The man he was, accused of murdering. But I think it would have been really funny if he had jumped into the new body and he was like, suddenly I really know how to hide bodies pretty well for a while.
Right?
But, yes, the intern who inexplicably lives with them is bringing in the packages for the wedding that Stacy is having, because Stacy and Jane still live together, even though Stacy is very pregnant with Owen's babies and the two of them are going to be married.
But they only got together a couple of episodes ago.
Okay, but you're going to get married, but you don't want to have any experience living with the other person first? Okay, good luck with that.
Well, I mean, she got pregnant with his kids before they got together, so...
I know, but live together for a little while before getting married. Come on.
Well, they have a very real deadline.
All the more reason why they should be living together now.
So, the intern comes in and he gives Jane a invoice that was taped to the door showing that the amount of whales that they had harvested from the whaling ship was more than the legal limit for whaling, so...
It's totally cool that she killed all those Japanese guys.
Yep.
They overfished, therefore justified in murdering them with your boat. Just squashing them flat. I'm not saying hunting whales is good, it's clearly not, but also, her client did break the law and get people at very least injured.
Only injured, nobody died. It's important that
They're
nobody died.
very clear to, yeah.
But Jane's argument is that this means that it was a political act, although it was already a political act. You didn't need...
That's the whole point of your stupid anti-whale murdering group, is that they're political.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it different. How is
the fact that they were, provably right, that doesn't make it not... Listen, a lot of people who are provably wrong engage in political acts. Whatever, she stopped her from being extradited. It's fine now, I guess.
Yeah, she literally has them turn the plane around because once Japan has its hands on her, they'll never see her again. She'll be gone forever. Seriously, did Japan Did Japan do something to this show?
It is tremendously xenophobic. Yes, they're treating it like a lawless fantasy land where she's...
It's basically run by companies like Earth in the Aliens movies, and
or America right now.
And if What's-Her-Bucket gets extradited to there, then she's going to be sent to, the Nostromo to be killed by, a chest burster. Now,
Jane goes to the office because the invoice could have only been given to her by...
She did get the airplane turned around. I don't know if we mentioned that. Because she knows, I don't know, the American aviation general or whatever.
Yeah. So she goes to talk to Owen because he's the only person who could have put the note on her door with the invoice. And he's like, well, it was a part of Discovery, so you should have had it, so it's fine. I didn't actually break any ethical rules. I'm dubious about this, but I'm not going to look into it. I'm like, I don't feel like tape to her door was the right forum for disclosure of that discovery, but whatever.
Anyway, the two of them are friends again. He's like, look, clearly you're going through something, but you know what? I have a really pregnant girlfriend. I'm about to be a dad, and I'm getting married tomorrow, so maybe your weird personal shit shouldn't affect me for once. And she's like, well, you did say my name a whole bunch in that, and I love when people say my name. So, yeah, we can be friends again.
Although, to be fair, the name he's saying is Jane.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, they link arms and skip over to Jane's apartment where Stacy is trying on her wedding dress, but Unfortunately, her water breaks, and she is going into labor. She's going into labor a month early because she's having twins, so of course the due date is, earlier than expected, because that's what happens with twins. And, she's in pain, she's got contractions, but they're ready, they've got the go bag.
Yeah, and 36 weeks is,
Oh yeah, we're not worried about the size of the baby. She's worried about missing the wedding.
Yeah. So, you've seen a birth scene on TV before.
It is, we talked about 30 Rock last week, and I was very much feeling the episode of 30 Rock where Elizabeth Banks is in labor, and John Cho is like, wait, you're really in labor? Because those contractions are pretty sitcom-y.
Yeah. So, blonde lawyer lady comes in, she's like, I proved Bigfoot exists, and also I'm dating a personal assistant or something, and Jane's like, oh, sweetie, shut up, no one cares.
Jane, you are wrong. Jane does care, because the fact that Kim has proved that Bigfoot exists and that she is dating a temp means that it totally makes sense that you should just accept the unbelievable, like Jane dating this guy.
God.
It relates back to her thing.
She is the center of the universe. So she tells her assistant lady, oh, you're my rock, and Margaret Cho's like, I know it's the last episode, but I'm quitting to pursue my music career or whatever, and Jane's like, okay, whatever, you weren't in the last few episodes anyway, who cares?
Owen comes back, the babies have been born.
Yay!
Everybody's healthy and happy.
Yeah. Hugs all around.
It's a very finale feel,
Yeah. And, he's like, now remember, nobody can see her because she's still very medically fragile from pushing two human beings out of her. And Jane's like, whatever, I'm her best friend, I can do whatever I want. She just barges into the room. Like, he said that she wasn't up to seeing people. This is incredibly rude.
She wanted to see Jane.
Did she?
Yes.
Yeah, who's going to talk about herself right after? Stacy just gave birth to two living human beings. And Jane bursts into the room and she's like, by the way, Owen and I made up and we're friends now. And I can date Ian now. Ian is Grayson.
I have to say, Stacy looks really good for just having given birth to twins.
Yeah, she pulled that through like a champ.
So, Jane tells Stacy, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere because it's the finale and I need to establish that I am going to,
Do you think she's going to rejoin the law firm? I guess we'll talk about that.
Yeah, she's definitely going to rejoin the law firm. And, that's what she's establishing. Basically, she's like, we're going back to status quo, and that's what we're doing in this finale. I'm not going to run off to Italy with Ian. And she brings Ian home. She has bought a piano so that he can play. And, I mentioned that this show is way into guest stars. The other thing this show is way into is musical numbers. For a non-musical live-action show, there are a lot of musical numbers in this show. And, Ian starts playing the piano, and he sings It Had to Be You, and Jane is super charmed, and they sing together, and the camera pans to the really weird picture of Deb and Grayson that will live on their mantelpiece forever, confusing the fuck out of anyone who visits them.
And they're doing a montage of Grayson in Grayson's body, and Deb in Deb's body, and then Deb in Jane's body, and then Grayson dying, and then Grayson in Ian's body, and it's like, oh my god. Like, and this is clearly hitting the highlights of their relationship, but like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yep. And that's the end of Drop Dead Diva.
Yeah, the two of them are going to be together because they're...
Because if anyone tries to stop them, they will fucking come back to Earth. Okay, so, I'm sorry. I got distracted when you said that this is just an ethical nightmare.
Yes.
And I wanted to bring up a thing I felt as I was rewatching this show. Mm-hmm. Which is that it is the opposite of The Good Place.
Okay.
So, in The Good Place, we learn that the point system that determines whether you go to the good place or the bad place, like, really hones in on every single thing you do and all of the, like, ripple effects it has on the world.
Yeah, you buy a bag of chips, then you are directly responsible for every piece of human suffering that went into the creation of that bag of chips.
Right. Meanwhile, when Deb goes to heaven, or the afterlife, the gates or whatever, where it's going to be determined if she goes to, which they actually say the good place or the bad place, they don't say heaven or hell. She's told that she's a 0-0. She has not done anything good or evil. She's basically done nothing. And that's just not the case. Like, we know how she lived. She did good things, she did bad things, but I guess only really huge things result in points in this show.
Apparently.
And also, it's just funny because The Good Place, as I was watching this, I just kept thinking of how The Good Place would have been concerned with things like taking over someone else's body. Whereas in this show, there's a lot of, don't worry about it. And yet, you know what? I love both shows.
I was just saying, they're talking about having kids before he starts playing the, piano for the montage. And, he's like, oh yeah, we're going to have one boy and one girl, and then you're going to give birth to a dog, and it's going to be fantastic. And I'm just thinking about her giving birth to the baby, and he's going to be like, oh, it has your eyes. I mean, not really.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was Drop Dead Diva.
All right, let's talk about our segments.
All right,
on a scale of Ross and Rachel on Friends to Walter White on Breaking Bad, how much do you think that this finale is going to stick?
Well, I think Grayson is going to be in his new body forever. I think that he is probably just going to work as her paralegal. I don't think he's going to get his law degree back.
Uh-huh.
He seems a lot less focused on his career now that he's dead and been reborn.
Yeah.
Opposite of Deb.
No, not opposite of Deb, because she had to give up her modeling career.
Oh, yeah, I guess. But, I think this finale is going to stick pretty hard.
Okay, so do you think that Jane and Ian will stay together?
Yes.
Because who else is going to want them? Who else are they going to be able to tell anything to?
Yeah, I think they're going to stay together. I don't think they're going to be happy.
Interesting. Why not? He's saying it had to be you.
Granted, I didn't see a lot of this show, but Jane really seems like she likes complaining, and Grayson seems like he's taking this opportunity to have a new life. And I think those two philosophies aren't going to go well together, but I also do think that they are literally soulmates, so they will be bound together no matter what.
Ooh, but in an unpleasant way. So, because you didn't watch the whole thing...
Yes.
You didn't see the stuff that happened after Grayson found out that Jane was Deb.
Mm-hmm.
And he really started discounting her intelligence once he found out that she was Deb, even though he had fallen in love with Jane independently because of her intelligence. So it's like... I do think that they're going to have a lot of issues with that kind of stuff. And, yeah, I know that I jokingly questioned you, but I agree. I don't think that they would actually be happy together long term. Second part, if you were going to rewrite this ending, what would you do?
Okay, I'd consolidate it a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
The ticking clock will be the fact that the new body's on death row.
Yeah. Which is... So, the third to last episode is the episode where she's getting him off death row. And...
I mean, honestly, you know how I'd end it?
How?
She gets, she proves he's innocent. The judge is like, he's innocent, let that man go, bangs the gavel. They kiss, and then it zooms in on Owen's face, and Owen goes, what the fuck? And then the show ends.
I'm with you 100%. Yeah, that's how I would have ended it too. Which is actually how the episode Afterlife ended, so we would have just ended it, we would have just cut the last two episodes altogether, basically.
Yeah. We didn't need to know that she gives birth to healthy babies and the two of them are together now. We get it.
Well, I mean, we could have removed the puppet subplot from Afterlife, and she could have given birth in that episode.
God, yes. Yeah, there's a subplot about a guy who's insistent on taking his insult comedy puppet on airplanes. The whole conceit is that the airline can't find a single person to testify that it was annoying and they wanted him to stop, which I 10,000% do not believe.
Right?
Because they're like, no other customers objected to his puppet being racist all the time because the puppet told racist jokes.
And insulted people's bodies.
And insulted people's... But they're every time it did it, someone's like, they look offended at first, but then they're like, haha, that's not how it works. That's not how it ever works. No one thinks you're funny. Shut up.
Okay, so if they were going to revive the series today, how would you do it?
I would clearly lean more on the drama.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, I'd focus more on the supernatural side of it. Like, I would have the comedy court stuff. I'm assuming this is a fresh reboot, right? It's not just...
No, a revival.
Oh, a revival.
So if we're going to drop back in on these characters... What is it? 15 years later. So 15 years have passed. How do you bring back the show?
Okay, I'm going to go a little more into the future.
Okay.
It's Jane and Ian Grayson's daughter.
Okay.
She's becoming a lawyer, and Jonah, or someone, an angel comes to her and is like, okay, look, I need your help. You know how your mom was a dead lady and she's in someone else's body? And she's like, no. And he's like, okay, well, there's a bunch of incidents of that, and I need you to help me track them down.
Oh, like Reaver.
Yeah, like Reaper. I would completely steal the plot of Reaper, where she's using her lawyer skills to track down escaped souls from heaven.
Okay, so you are kind of going in this... You're going along the same lines as me, but I have a different plot.
Okay.
Okay, so in my plot, Jane and Ian have managed to steal the keyboard with the return button.
Okay.
And by the time we drop back in on them 15 years later, they are in entirely different bodies, living entirely different lives, and they've rebooted themselves like 10 times at that point.
So we're both more interested in the supernatural aspects of the show. The angels didn't do shit in the last couple of episodes. You have a show with literal goddamn angels and they don't ever do anything.
So it's funny because we went in the same direction, but like from opposite angles, because in my version of the show, they're on the run from those angels. Like, they're the people that are being tracked down in your version.
Yes.
Oh, that's bad.
Yes, yeah, we combine them. Yeah, she's trying to find her mom and dad.
Yes!
Because they abandoned her to jump bodies.
Yes!
And she's using angel help.
All right, we're good. Let's go and write that right now.
Yeah.
All right.
Call us Lifetime. I don't know who
Yeah,
did
it was
the
on
show.
Lifetime.
Okay.
Yeah, call us Lifetime. Next week we'll talk about Buffy season 5.
Oh my god, are we actually going to talk about Buffy when we're supposed to be talking about Buffy?
No, we're going to talk about Charmed the whole time. But yeah, we're going to talk about the finale that wasn't really a finale, Buffy season 5.
Yay.
But for now, we're gonna log off and go write the revival of Drop Dead Diva.
Call us Lifetime. I'm assuming you have our numbers because, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, I assume we're all being watched all the time by everyone.
That was before we were recording.
Oh.
But yeah.
Yes. Or was it?
Our show is partially listener supported. If you want to be one of the supporters, you should head over to our website, www.welcometotelevision.net, and click on our Patreon link. We'd like to thank our current $5 and above patrons, Beryl, Patricia, Rosa, Ryan, Maricruz, Benjamin, Kate, Jen, Dan, Anthony, and Daniel.
If you'd like to support the show in other ways, you could always rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find the show.
If you want to talk about this episode or any episode of any television show, you can find us on Blue Sky at Welcome to Television, or you can email us at ilovetelevisionzines@gmail.com.
So until next time, I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And this has been Welcome to the End. Apocalypse Blah.